then we'll talk about ourselves.
All right, come on. We can talk about ourselves the whole time. Who needs this game, right? Anyway, into the game, we have loaded into Secret Spring. It is the first game of a best of three to play for the fourth place. Rather, to avoid getting fourth place, the loser of this best of three does end up in the fourth place spot, but still well fought in the Midwest Cup #4. Let's get our intros in.
Sure,
Sam, start
absolutely.
me
So
off.
this is, I'm Sam Holtman, and spawning at the bottom left, we have our Red Zerg Warren.
Well, that means that I am Jackson, and in the top right of said map, the blue Terran playing for Ashes is Atsigo Flesh.
Yeah, so both players making really good run through the tourney. Warren just recently getting knocked down to the losers bracket by another GM, the Terran Zan, who's in the winners semis now. Be playing in the match after this, and that Seago Flash really making a great run through this tournament. Did get one walkover over one of our another GM player who bowed out of the tournament to get him into the losers finals here. But he absolutely, I mean, he took on some good players. He beat players of equal and higher caliber than him through this tournament. So absolutely deserves to be where he is. And now we'll see what he does, because this is always sort of a scary sort of game, playing somebody more than more than a league above yours. Of course, you can be better, right, than your league reflects, but it's a reasonable standard to go by. So starting with some pretty high level play here, right? Going straight for the CC first.
Yeah, it's pretty bold actually, and I'm guessing it's just kind of a response to the map pool. You can really kind of just assume that we're looking at a fast expand from the Zerg. But that being said, he actually didn't scout whatsoever, so it's become kind of even more emboldened by the just like almost blind counter to the fast expand from Warren.
Right, which I mean, this is good play, right? Because if he scouts, there's nothing he's going to do differently. He'll just know something's coming. It's not going to change his play necessarily up to this point. I mean, he drops the CC first before his SCV would get there, and he's going to build a barracks regardless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might impact, if you kind of assume though that a pool is going to go down by 15 supply.
And actually, a really fast third base from Warren.
Yep.
Probably direct response to the fast CC. Don't dislike it really at all. It's a nice response. Nothing's gonna be coming out of Atsugo for some time. Maybe a Reaper could come. He is going for a reactor, but there's not really all that much that can kind of punish this third base for a while. And I like that choice. Kind of makes up for the fact that Atsugo is equalizing the economy with his faster CC.
Right, absolutely. I love the greed. It's continued. He goes reactor straight away, no marine.
Mm-hmm.
Still blind, right? So for all he knows, there could be lings on the way.
Sure.
But he drops the reactor anyway. He grabs 2 orbitals. So he's setting himself up well here. He's got a factory, right, which should give him some ability to move out onto the map. It'll be interesting to see if he makes Hellions or Mines. He does a gas coming. Could be for upgrades, but I guess he doesn't have a tech lab yet. So I'm almost going to say it's probably for Mines.
Yeah, it could be a couple defensive mines. Could actually be some scouting Hellions. Drop on the reactor, get 2-4, and kind of run around, and then move back into marine production. But it actually looks like he's going straight for a tech lab and starport after that. So it could be a little bit of a delay.
Banshee Hellion?
Banshee, yeah. I think more interesting would be the cloak timing if he really decides to invest all the way into it, or just kind of have the extra firepower with the incredibly good at roasting drone power of Hellions.
Sure. He's doing a good job here. He's already got his Marines postured below the starport to try to deny any Overlord scout of the starport. Bad timing there, though, moving him away.
And at the same time, we have 4 gas coming for Warren. It is actually the first gas at the moment, so it's going to be some time before he can get his speed finished, and then start moving to a lair. But on a 3-base economy, or I guess 2.5 at this point, it will be able to ramp up pretty fast. And actually looks like a really fast tank coming from Otsego. He's going quite a bit more defensive than I would have assumed.
He could do something crazy here, though. There are some really abusable positions on this map for tank placements. And there are a lot of good places to bounce back and forth with medevacs. So you can certainly get some cute stuff done. And maybe tanks are part of his plan there. Maybe he knows, a ridge where you can either harass a mineral line or maybe kill a base even. Doing a good job clearing off overlords. Because if you're scouted, you kind of lose some of the advantage, but killing an overlord, right, slows down any defense they might bring. So
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Warren is supply blocked kind of heavily, actually. It's a good 20 or so seconds, or 15 until an overlord pops. He's well over 4, and I think the majority of that supply is in drones. Actually, it's all in drones and queens, so there is, except for a few queens, actually no defensive units on the map so far. Baneling Nest only just now finished, but there's no links to create a Baneling Nest. It's actually a really, really nice timing from Otsego.
Yeah, so this is pretty cute abuse of this map, right? He's not close enough to be hitting the mineral line, but he can deny gas. In this case, he might even be able to reach some of the tech if he repositions some tanks, and he can certainly, fortify right here so his Marines can poke in and then fall back on the tanks. Some inspired play.
Absolutely. Nice transfuses on the queens. I don't believe a single one has gone down yet. 2 of them are really just kind of testing the waters. The Baneling Nest might actually go down, which is going to be kind of nice, but at the same time, a real big counterattack from where he's not even going to worry about the tanks shelling his main base at the moment.
Oh, but he does have a tank, some Marines.
Yeah.
And Medvac, if he pulls SCVs, that's not going to get in.
Yeah, really nice defense from Otsego. Several drone kills so far. Might even be able to snipe one of the Evo chambers. He is going to snipe it, almost.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Does get the pickup. Loses some of his bio there, but not a huge deal as long as he doesn't lose the medevacs. One does get picked off, and the Lynx do come around to clean up the tank. So that's a good hold from Warren. He takes some damage there, right? He lost the Baneling Nest, lost an Evo chamber, and lost some mining time.
Yeah, it was well cleaned up. It wasn't, this detrimental loss. It's going to be a little bit slower on his carapace, a little bit slower on his Bane speed. But really the main thing is that Otsego was actually able to pretty handedly equalize the worker count. And I'm not sure he even has recognized the fact there's a 3rd base. He's going to soon. But he's able to kind of respond to the 3rd base without really knowing of his existence pretty well.
Right, and that might have been a drop coming to go to the main or something like that. But again, using some of the cliffs here, do want to be careful of the placement of the tanks.
Yeah,
and the medevacs. So see here again, the tanks close to getting picked off, but that's a good pickup. But I mean, the cool thing is here, he killed 10 drones, right? And he's equalized more or less the supplies. Or the worker counts, which is really pretty cool, because he's a 4cc Terran right now against a 3-base Zerg, and that's always a pretty comfortable place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't think there's any turrets at the moment. Need to see them go down here relatively soon. We don't have a mass number of Munilis at the moment, but once they start hitting that 9 or 10 count, they can easily pick off a few SCVs and get out without taking too much damage themselves. And it looks like Warren is going to try to go for the front again. Unfortunately, these tanks are unsieged.
Right, he doesn't really need them to repel these lings. The bigger deal, right, is these mutas. He doesn't have any missile turrets established. He doesn't have Thor's out, though he does have, I mean, all the tools for it. Maybe he doesn't have an armory yet.
I don't believe he has armor. He's actually going to...
armory's half done.
He does lose his 3rd base, but at the same time he is going potentially for a 5th CC. Really, really aggressive economically from Otsego. And I really like that response to the economy of Warren. There's not been too much in the way of him committing to big attacks. He's been kind of getting what he needs to defend, maybe retaliate a little bit. He hasn't gone, for 20 Banelings to go straight for the door. And Etsigo is responding to that really well. He's just kind of keeping up with the bases. He did unfortunately lose his third base, but the extra amount of CCs are going to keep his, what are they even called? Mule count very, very high. His +1 isn't too far behind the +1 of Warren. Should finish just before really any fight happens.
Yeah, so we do have a Baneling Nest back down. We have Baneling Speed coming out shortly. Croup spread's not great because most of the queens have been defending or dying. But the link count by itself is pretty solid.
There's a pretty big drop in the main of Warren, but a ton of Lings and Mutas will be able to clean it out really, really well. And I guess that was about it, all that Etsigo was able to do.
Yeah, Etsigo calls GG, realizes the game is quickly spiraling out of control for him. He certainly could have stayed in that game longer, totally respectively, but I mean, for every player it's a little bit different, right? Where they call it over. He certainly didn't pull an Idra and GG because there were hallucinated units.
Or after his Terran opponent killed his own CC and destroyed half of his tank line and was about to GG himself. That was a fun MLG.
It was fun indeed. That's a moment to get the crowd riled up.
Yeah. So yeah, I still think it was really, really well played. He was actually keeping up very, very impressively with a pretty intense player, doing some really nice, cute plays. Uriah really was able to abuse the map itself. And I mean, it really looks like he's actually he's practiced this a lot. He kind of knew what he was going to do in a TVZ on this map.
Yeah. So as we are loading, not quite loading into, but we're getting ready up on Catalina for our next map. But as we do, I'll talk about these plays just a little bit as we load into the game. At Seagull Flesh, we've seen him yesterday. I think play once or twice. But he is a Platinum Terran from Illinois. He was the highest placing Platinum player at Shycraft Winter that happened a few weeks ago over in Chicago at the Ignite Gaming Lounge. That was a 32-man StarCraft 2 tournament. That was a bunch of fun. And also, I added this. He beat me on ladder, which reminded me to invite him to come to this event because I knew he was from, the area. So he's better than me. Then our other player who just we just saw take the first game on Secret Spring. He is a Grandmaster Zerg. His name is Warren. He's from Missouri. If you enjoy his play or want to cheer him on or something, you can tweet at him at WarrenSC2 on Twitter. And a couple of his recent accomplishments have been that he knocked Desver out in the recent WCS qualifier. And he also achieved top 48 at MLG Anaheim 2014. So pretty decent, pretty comfortable with a big stage and a big sort of tournament like that.
Yeah.
So very cool.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the next game, eh?
Sure.
Sure. It looks like Warren choosing to go random this time. I guess both players are okay with it. All right.
Indeed, and we've done it before, so I told them they could do it again.
All right. Well, I was gonna try and be more strict about it this time, but I guess not.
Kevin, you gotta leave it in the rules then.
It is in the rules.
Is it in the rules?
Yes.
Should have changed it then. My bad. We'll get them next time. All right. We'll crack down on
setting a
Warren.
precedence now.
I think Warren, just
wild.
as much as anything, doesn't want to be Zerg again. He was having some trouble with the cliffs throughout the game there, especially in the early game when medevacs are rampant and Hydras, Mutas, and Infestors don't exist. Some really tough positions you can put Zergs in, some map abuse, so to speak. So he just as well might want to get out of that situation on Catalina, which is another similar sort of map where it's cliffs on cliffs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost a lot worse to be a Protoss, I feel like, versus a Terran on this map. Excuse me. Anyway, so spawning into Catalina on the bottom right, The red Terran this time, playing for our Immortals. His name is Warren.
And spawning at the 1 o'clock. Down one game. The farthest, or furthest rather, Platinum to advance through the tournament. Fighting for his life in the tournament here is our blue Terran Otsego Flesh.
I actually really love TVT. PvP is fun to watch. ZVZ is stressful to play, but TVT is very interesting to me, both from watching and playing. And actually, we're going to immediately have a proxy T-Rex. And that's actually why I kind of like it, because there's a lot of really creative things that can come out. And that's not to mention that there aren't creative things in the other mirror matchups. It's just, they just seem to be a bit more abundant in this matchup. And some games that should last 6 minutes can last 30. It's very interesting matchup. I really enjoy it.
So we have the cheeky play in this game coming out. Usually it's the sort of thing that players do when they're off racing, right? Because they don't know a good proper build order in their normal race. So they're like, hey, but anybody can cannon rush, right? And in this case, we actually have Otsego Flesh. Proxy 2-raxing. He's in the middle of the map, right? And on Catalina, this isn't going to be in the normal scout path for anybody checking either base, but he doesn't know yet, right, where his opponent is, but it's equally close to both spawn locations. So this will be interesting to see. This is kind of the opposite of the last game he played. He played greedy in an economic way, which is less common, I would say, than what he's doing right now, right? Because it's you might say the cheesiest thing a cheesy player can do, right, is play a macro game, and that's what he did. But in this game,
well, he's absolutely practiced this. You're right. It's kind of the best position to have a 2-Rax on this map. Because it's so hard to scout. There's no way that your SCV or your Overlord or your Probe is going to decide to go that route. And kind of decent hits on the Reaper really early on as well. But it's hard to see, and you're absolutely right. It is kind of the exact opposite of what he did last game.
I would love to see a bunker go down here for Otsego Flesh too.
He pulled several SCVs, and I think that is the idea, but he might not have enough time to commit to it at the moment. Pretty good Reaper control after the initial sort of misstep by Warren. But several SCVs do go down to these Marines.
Right, and so what we're at is the situation where Otsego Flesh needs to get to the Marine count where he can handle the Reapers. Or he needs a bunker or something else like that, or a Reaper of his own. Good game is called, though. Warren doing a good job of containing and pulling SCVs right at the right time in order to be able to make sure that he keeps the advantage.
Yeah, he